Alright, we report that the quorum does exist for the select committee on tourism, arts, culture, youth and sports to commence business.
Okay. Yes, okay. Can we all be seated? Get closer. Okay, thank you, members, honorable members, and our invited guests. Welcome to this very assembly under the call of the Select Committee on Tourism and Youth and Sport. Now we can go ahead with the agenda, which the clerk will introduce to us. Clerk, can you go ahead with the introduction of the agenda? I think yes, you can just read the agenda, then we can move the motion for the agenda.
Yes, we have prayers, introduction, and presentation from the ministry. Then it will be.
Yes, so now we can do our introduction. That is, I am Honorable Sekuba, member for Basse constituency. I'm chairperson of this select committee, tourism and youth and sport.
Honorable Abdullah Sisse, member for Olindum and the vice chair for the committee.
I am Honorable Omar Jame, member for Jalpan constituency and a member of the tourism and youth select committee.
Honorable Bari Mosane, member of Olindum constituency and member of this committee.
Good morning once again. I am Ibrahim Jao, a clerk to the committee.
Yes,
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, and committee members of this very important select committee. I'm the Minister of Tourism and Culture, Honorable Ahmad Ba.
Good morning, my name is Abubakar S. Kamara. I am the Director General of the Tourism Board.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. My name is Dahlia Nyan. I'm the Director General of the Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Honorable Chair, Honorable Vice Chair, honorable members. My name is Hassan Sisse, Director General of National Center for Arts and Culture.
My name is Akia, Director of Tourism and Culture.
Good morning, my name is George Innes, Head of Finance, GT Board.
okay, thank you very much for introducing yourself. Now, before going further, before going with the agenda, so we can now raise our hand for the adoption of the agenda items. Members, can we?
I ask to move that we adopt the agenda
As it is. Second. Okay. So the agenda is being adopted as it is. The next agenda item is presentation of status reports on all activities and programs of the ministry for the year 2021 to 2022. Honorable members and our guests, this is a new committee in place. Honorable Sisse is re-elected into office. He served the 5th legislature, and from me down are new elected members of the National Assembly. So this is the Select Committee on Tourism, and we are assigned or given the responsibility to be working with the ministry on their policies and procedures, and with their administration also, so that at least we have a fruitful administration within the ministries and going by the standing orders and the constitution. So we wrote to you for you to be here today with the Honorable Minister and his staffs to give us a presentation of their activities and programs for 2021-2022. And we will also have another engagement with the other satellite institution under the ministry on a different schedule. As for today, it's just an introduction and submitting your reports of activity, which is where we are starting from. Then along the way, we will also engage you in a different schedule. And we will also engage other line institutions under the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy that you are elected chairman to this committee, and of course with the vice chair, who through his guidance, I'm sure, will enrich the work of this committee. And I think I have, since the fifth legislature, complained about this committee being overloaded of such important ministries and departments and institutions. You cannot have tourism and culture and have youth and sport in one committee. I've complained about this. And we were sidelined because the former chairman had more to do with sports. And it was after we protested that they started inviting us. I don't think they even met us more than twice. They were only dealing with sports. And that's why I always said that let's separate the two committees. Culture alone is more than enough, much more tourism. And then you add another two into that. It will really complicate it because two will suffer. So I've asked the Assembly since then to try to find a way of separating, at least getting youth and sports, their own select committee, getting tourism and culture, their select committee. That will make the work easier and better for all of us because these are institutions that are very important to the survival of this country. The youths, we know how important they are. You know the contribution of tourism and culture to the GDP, almost 30%, 25-30% of our GDP. So these are things that we are saying that let the Assembly reconsider, really separating, at least creating another committee out of this committee. First, number one. Number two, I have made some critical observation. And I raised this issue during the maiden meeting we had with the FPAC committee last week or this week. I've said it, you need to look at the acts of these various institutions. The acts stipulate in some of them, the minister shall lay before the Assembly the activity report of the particular institution for Parliament, before Parliament. And of course, the Director General and the board members, they are responsible of the financial statement that they will lay before the committees for scrutiny and the rest of it. But regarding the operations of the ministry and its satellite institutions, I wish that you would revisit the act, read them yourself. If you don't have copies, I think we will endeavor to provide them copies of this act to the committee to make their work easier. And I would urge Director Generals to try to give them copies of this act. They may not have it in the library, or the library may be difficult for them to search it. Give it to them. Now, we cannot present you activity report now. Activity reports are huge documents. Documented, it takes a long time to prepare. And because we are just coming out of the year, it takes us a period before all these things can be compiled with the statistics. There are those that are available, there are those you have to compile and get it done. With regards to the question of auditing, Madam, I'm going to take this side here. With regards to the issue of auditing and the rest of it, well, that we'll have to find out from them whether their audit reports for 2021 is ready or not ready. But I also believe that there will still be time for that. So to tell us to present activity report now will be almost an impossible task. But what I suggest you should do is to give us time to say we want your activity report to be prepared and presented particular day. These are not readily available documents by virtue of the auditing process. That takes a lot of time. You know, auditing is not an easy task because they have an external audit that they have to prepare these audit accounts and the audit account be submitted. So I think today's meeting could be more of an interaction between us and the committee, taking into account the concerns that we have raised and how we can also harmonize and to improve on our relationship for the betterment and general good for all of us. And that's why we are the only ministry, and put on record, that when we travel, we always ask the speaker to send us a member to join us at our own cost, so that members can also be aware and know what we do and how we do things and be part of the process. Unfortunately, at the time, we had to stop it. I ordered it to be stopped because I think the selection, as far as I'm concerned, was not very balanced. The selection of MPs who were to join us is our discretion to say, send us an MP, particular date we want one person to join us in the mission we are going, so that when we go, you work with us. So that whenever we do, you know that at least committee members are aware. We are the only government ministry that does that. No other government ministry. But when we realized that the selection was one-sided, because that's not our decision. We don't have the right to do that. We don't have the right to select who comes to join us. That's not our mandate. We can only write to you to say, write to the speaker, to the clerk rather, to say, Mr. Clerk, we are going on this mission. We would expect you to send us somebody from our committee or a member of parliament, most likely from the committee, to join us in our mission at our own cost. But then I ordered the permanent secretary to stop it because I realized that, you know, the way people have been selected going to these meetings was not in the best possible order. And I didn't want to really interfere in what is not my business. So we want to work closely with the committee so that we can interact, and that will make the job easier for all of us. And that's why I suggest today cannot be a presentation of reports or activities. You can only give us time, tell us which time, we look at what time we can do that. And now we are on a very serious program to get to our international partners, because people are finalizing their programs, tour operators and everything. We're supposed to be on a European tour, which we have not even started. We've just planned it because we are constrained, because we've been over-engaged and overlapping of meetings and programs. But I would suggest that give us a distant time, and then we look at it then. We will now try to see when they can get the reports ready and also the audited accounts ready and all the things that we need to do.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Honorable Minister. You had it very well. Because your first concern from the 5th legislature was to try to at least separate these two committees.
We are at a disadvantage.
Yeah, in fact, what happened is, it's not only this committee is overloaded, because you can see the other meeting I should have attended, that is environment, which is almost about 3 ministries, 9 ministries. This one is only 2, where you have environment, petroleum, fisheries, you understand? So for the other concern also, you said they were concentrating more on sports. They were concentrating more on sport than tourism.
They sent me letter
but
on the 7th.
Hello?
We did not get letter, we were not there. Later, we assumed that...
Hello, Honorable Minister.
Yes, I'm coming. Let me just clear something.
Okay.
The letter was sent on the 7th when we were at the Kairaba Conference Center. I'm sorry, the letter dispatched here on the 7th, they will reach there on the 8th. On the 8th, 9, we were not there. But since it is Parliament, when they call, we will answer and we will work with them to listen. We didn't see even the content of that letter, but we know what they wanted was this. And I'm just elaborate on that, and he's responding. Go ahead.
Yes, as your other concern was, the former committee was concentrating more on sport than tourism.
And not us.
For us, we have already put that into consideration when we first met this committee. In fact, looking at the past records, we realized that. That's why if you look at our work plan, in fact, tourism is more reflected than youth and sport. You understand? So tourism reflects more on our work plan than youth and sport. So the rest assured, we will be working hand in glove with you, and we will give you due consideration. So the other appeal for us to give you enough time so that you can prepare this, we will leave it in the hands of the committee to look at it. Then we will get back to you, and members, if you have anything to...
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister and team, thank you. I think what we wanted to do today, like you alluded, the presentation of status report basically is not about the activity report that the minister have been engaging on, you've been implementing from 2021 to 2022. What we wanted to look at is, because we have a couple of new members in the committee, the interaction should be what the ministry is doing, what are some of the functions of the ministry. Exactly, that is exactly
we can give you that, but if you look at your request, was not done. So that's why we spoke based on your request. Yes, so if you,
that is what we wanted to check, so that
yes,
they can...
your request was not based on what he said, and that's why we responded. But what you are asking, we can do that now. We are ready.
Yes.
We
Because
can,
of your concern, now we are
we can do that now.
So we try to re-amend. We try to re-amend because of the concern you have.
Yes.
So we re-amend and
we can do that, and I can do that on behalf of all the committee, all the three institutions. Because no, I am on top of my ministry. I can tell you that I'm on top of my ministry. My permanent secretary can do it. My DPS, all of them can do it, because we have interaction close in whatever that we do. Okay. First of all, let me.
No, I am not. I think he understands exactly what I mean.
Yes.
So that is the whole interact. That is the whole meeting. We just wanted to engage with the ministry so that members can acquaint themselves more on the issues the ministry is doing from here. So that when we call these other institutions, when they come, they know exactly the type of questions that they are supposed to ask them and what exactly are they looking at from their activity reports. That will help us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking you once again for starting with the tourism sector, particularly at this crucial time in which we have been faced with, no doubt about it, that is COVID-19, which is part of our life we're going to live with. The Ministry of Tourism, the government of the Gambia, have always taken COVID as a serious matter that has devastated our industry. And every effort was made by this government to make sure that we bring back this industry to normalcy. And that we couldn't do alone. It's a collective responsibility across the board, of which we would certainly look forward to this committee in supporting us in every endeavor towards that objective. First of all, when we took over, there was no policy in place. It expired as far back as when? 10 years ago. 1988. There was no policy in the Ministry of Tourism. 96. Yes, there was no policy in the National Center for Arts and Culture. We started with the arts and culture. We rolled out our policy in 2019. We rolled out our policy for 10 years. 10 years policy for the National Center for Arts and Culture. And that led us to the current programs that we are engaged in, because the policy dictates the strategy of the ministry and of the institution. And then again, with tourism, there was also no policy. We also worked on that policy with the help of the UNDP. They funded the policy. We have completed that policy, validated, and I think, Madam Permanent Secretary, you should tell us the next stage on the policy before I continue. Go ahead.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members of Parliament. Currently, the National Tourism Policy has been validated. What it's awaiting now is for it to be tabled at the level of Cabinet. And once approved, the National Tourism Policy will be rolled out along with the strategy that has been developed to actually implement the policy direction that the ministry wants to proceed on. It's a policy which will span from the period 2022 to 2031. So we have clearly indicated in the policy the ministry's very key policy direction and issues that are very pertinent especially the issue of the COVID-19 pandemic that took us unawares. And we have, in that strategy, clearly indicated the sort of recovery process that we would undertake and program to ensure that we actually recover from the challenges that COVID had created for the industry. We've also included the issue of upgrading our heritage sites. Under that, of course, the very complex sort of product diversification issue is kind of tackled, because as we are upgrading our heritage sites, we're also adding to the product mix that the GT board would have to offer to the tourists who visit the country. We are also looking at, of course, the human resource development of the tourism sector, headed by the Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute. Now, the GTHI is tasked with the responsibility of training, capacitizing, and developing the human resource base of the tourism and hospitality industry. Now, GTHI has expanded its curriculum. It is also working tirelessly to continue to be the center of excellence within the sub-region and hopefully internationally pretty soon, because we would eventually want to be offering courses that students could leave the shores of Gambia and actually be recognized internationally as they progress on diplomas and advanced diploma courses. So we are twinning with international universities eventually to offer courses at that level. Now, when it comes to GT board itself, the policy clearly states the sort of roadmap that we would have for the issue of product development, the issue of quality, the standards that we would want to see our hotels graduate to, the issue of tourism, domestic tourism rolling out. We were very much focused in the past on international tourism arrivals. We want to open the interland and ensure that we open up to investors to invest in rural Gambia, so that the issue of urban congestion is actually decongested to the interland. We've realized that we focused too long on hotels being in the urban area. So a policy that the Minister of Tourism and Culture took, or a decision he took when he took over office, was that we would reduce the approval of hotels in the urban area as much as possible and ensure that the approvals we give for hotels would be basically for rural Gambia and typically focused on the river, so that we maximize on the offerings that the river, as well as the eco sort of the eco environment within those locations, offer to the country to complement the establishment of these tourism facilities in those areas.
The costing of the policy.
It needs to be costed. Okay, that's another stage. Prior to rolling out, of course, we would need to sit and cost the policy, which we have a rough sort of figure that we have, but we have to ensure that we sit and get actual figures and estimates that we can actually link to the various activities and programs that we would be rolling out. So aside of having it at the level of cabinet for approval, we would need to cost it. Following the costing, we would probably host a donor conference which is very important. And of course, the National Assembly would have an opportunity to sit and hear firsthand the sort of programs, costed programs, with, of course, actual deliverables and outputs and outcomes for you to appreciate
the monitoring process that we have in place.
Okay. In terms of monitoring, we had way before the developing offer policy, we have a reporting mechanism at the level of the ministry in which our satellite institutions use a template that we sort of compare our current deliverables required at each quarter. In this case, we were doing it with the NDP targets that were set for the ministry. And as the Honorable Minister would always boast of, we have really met all our targets.
We are the only ministry other than justice that have surpassed all our NDP targets for 2 years concurrently running prior to coming. On record.
Yes. And we could have only known that because of the M&E mechanism that we have at the level of the ministry. At the start of every year, we meet at management level and gauge the sort of achievements we would want to realize for each year based on the overall goals and objectives that were set out annually. So each of the institutions would report back based on the template that we have developed at the ministry level, which would then, of course, direct us to link it to the overall NDP sort of targets that we have set out ourselves to achieve.
No, it's okay.
So
I think the rest of it, because you cannot finish it all. Because I think at the end, you want to give them more. I think they will get to know. When they have a copy of the policy, we're going to give you a copy of the policy.
Yes, I think the policy will outline everything.
You will outline, if you have a copy of the policy, you will see yourself.
Thank you, Madam PS.
But I just wanted to give them the objectives. But again, the policy will
anything to say, or we can still give them more chance if anybody wants to come on board.
I want to add something to what the permanent secretary have said, because I wanted her to say it herself, because they are the custodian of this policy. I think the policy will help us in the sense that it's based on a wide range of consultation. Even alcalos at village level were consulted. Governors, members of parliament, councillors at every level of society were involved in the preparation of this policy. So it is the people's policy. It is not a policy where a technocrat sat somewhere and wrote something, a document. No. We hired consultants who went throughout this country, every part of this country, and met everybody, for that matter. And as a result, it is a policy that we believe can take us to another level of this tourism sector. And when we were doing the policy, we also felt that there was a need to revitalize our tourism sector. We found out that some of our heritage sites were disappearing. Kunta Island, which is James Island before, have almost vanished. If you have a map of this thing 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and today, you will see a marked difference. The maintenance of most of our sites, the big erosion. Some hotels are threatened now. If there is no intervention, they will be vanished because the ocean would have consumed them. A lot of other things that the ministry needed to do. Government don't have these resources. These are huge amount of resources. The World Bank did not intervene in the Gambian tourism sector since in the early 70s. They had a small intervention. We felt it was important with our team to get to the World Bank. And our permanent secretary, under her leadership and the leadership of the Director Generals, together with the permanent secretary of finance and his staff, we engaged the World Bank. I think it took us a duration of how much? 9 months? 9 months with the World Bank. 9 months. And they work sometime until, because of the time difference, even at midnight, they would have meetings on virtual. Even at midnight, they would have meeting on virtuals. It was not easy, but yesterday we got the new news. The World Bank have approved the biggest single envelope for the government of Gambia. No, it's okay. It's public.
They have not. They don't want to announce it themselves, but I think we can share it with them. But it cannot go public. It has to come from them.
They have to announce it.
Yeah. No, just for the media coverage. I think.
Edit it.
Yeah. Please.
But then I think that
Please edit that. You know, we can share it with them.
they've approved the project of $68 million to us.
Exactly.
That means it's life. Oh.
We should have been told that.
Oh. But I don't think that would stop it happening anyway. They should have, yeah. Anyway, it has been approved for the government of the Gambia. Approval has been granted as of yesterday. That means we are another milestone. That will be a legacy of this government. I think it will be a great legacy of this government for us to be able to get this thing done. So we should be proud and happy to say that we have a very strong team that has worked very hard. And on that note, once again, let me take this opportunity, Madam Permanent Secretary and your DPS and your entire staff, and Director General GT Board, NCAC, GTHI, and all of you, and the Permanent Secretary for Finance and his team for a job well done. And indeed, thanking the former Minister of Finance, Mr. Mambure Njai. He did a fantastic job, great job too. We are all together in this. So it's a great achievement for the tourism sector. So we hope that that will make a difference for all of us as for the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for giving me the platform.
Okay. You can be excused to go and call them and meet now.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
You can be excused to go and meet now.
Once again, I want to seize this opportunity to thank the Honorable Minister for honoring our invitation, and as well as his team of technicians, ranging from the Permanent Secretary to our able directors from the various line institutions or departments within the tourism industry.
Congratulations. I don't think we've met you since.
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
also met him now.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll be coming to the office.
Before you proceed,
Yeah.
add something that we have forgotten to mention.
Yes.
Before you proceed, that would help you. We are working on a cabinet paper now. For the approval of cabinet, we want to organize the 200-year return of slave anniversary for Janjambure. That would be, and we are looking forward to bringing over 5-6 heads of state here. It will be the biggest program since the Barrow government started in 2017. That will be Janjambure celebration.
Celebration, exactly.
Your kingdom, so you'll be king of kings.
Make him to laugh.
Then we will crown you,
Yes.
Honorable. Then we will crown you. Yes, basically I just want to shed light on few things from the report we had from the Permanent Secretary. First and foremost is with regards to rural tourism that you did mention during your deliberations. And I just want to find out if really in developing or promoting rural tourism in the Gambia, if there are consideration to actually align it with community-based tourism that could actually...
Of course. Number one is community-based tourism.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing I just want to reflect on is on the policy document. And as such, I just want to thank the ministry for taking up the challenge to actually come up with a comprehensive policy document that will guide us along the process. But notwithstanding, I think it was rather unfortunate that some of us were exempted when this policy document...
You did not meet them, Dowda. You were part of the team They went to the provinces.
I think that would have met us, but what I'm saying here is during the national validation, we were expecting to be at least, we were not invited.
Probably didn't get it. Because anybody who was questioned,
Yes.
who was interacted,
Yes.
was invited.
All that we saw was on social media, the Ministry of Tourism.
Everybody. I'm sure there must have been a miscommunication somewhere. So we wanted everybody's input in this policy so that nobody will criticize it.
Exactly.
When it comes out, it's everybody's document.
Okay, hold on. Can you allow him to land so that
Yes, since that is addressed, I still want to congratulate you because I know how much the policy document can actually help us address the challenges that we encounter around the tourism industry and also boost the industry as well. Again, I would also make an appeal that with the acts from the various departments, if really the parliamentarians can be served with the acts, because this will really help us. Because most of us
I've
here,
already directed that they give
exactly.
Most of giving them the GT board at the NCAC at the GTHI, they will give you a copy.
Most of us here don't have a tourism,
so that you can read it
a tourism background. And I think some of these documents should be able to help us, guide us in the process of our work.
But we'll give you one copy, you bring the rest.
Yes, I think communication should be able to help us with that.
And we produce almost 30% of all government revenue. We are the list, you will see it in the budget. So I hope you will work towards improving that. Those who produce it, they never see it.
Yeah, basically I think with some of these documents, like the policy documents, the act would definitely help us to execute our oversight functions as expected, and also to help us, support the ministry in actually doing their work as expected. Because here I think we are all stakeholders. We are a team. If the ministry fails, it means the select committee of the of the standing committee of the National Assembly would equally fail. So therefore I always see it as a complementary form of in between the various stakeholders. So therefore we just want to assure you that you will be getting our support as a standing committee, but again we will also appreciate if you can actually share some of these things with us, wherein we can guide ourselves along the process and also support the process as expected. So on that note, once again, I just want to thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Jami. So, any other?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Honorable Ministers and your member of staffs and honorable members as present. Thank you so much. One should expect that because he's a former ally, a friend, and he's a very action-oriented person. We expect that when you come, you will deliver something which is very tangible, provided the ideologies and the foundation of social economy and other forms of development. We think that the guidelines of to promote the more cultural of the Gambians, so see themselves. Any decision-making policy should be always centered towards the rural areas because they are more into these cultural activities than the urban areas. So we definitely expect that that's supposed to be part of any of your policies. That's my own perspective, and I think ensuring that.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, I want to add something to what the honorable member have just said. We have what we call culture-centered based tourism. Our identity, people to know who we are.
Cultural-centered?
Culture-centered based tourism. Our identity, people to differentiate us from others, is only through our culture. And that's why culture is a center stage. And that's why we invested a lot of money. But the government of the Gambia have invested huge amount of money in the NCAC. But in cultural festival, in monuments, rehabilitation, Kerbat is done, Wasu is done. We've signed the contract for Mongo Park, and we are doing everything possible with this World Bank. We will do all the other areas that are more expensive and difficult. But government have been doing its own part of it. So we believe that culture is an integral part in promoting Gambian tourism, both nationally and internationally. And this morning, I'm just from inaugurating right now the new board members of the National Center for Arts and Culture. Just inaugurated that board, chaired by Mr. Fafambai, and other very important people who are very knowledgeable in this field. We just finished inaugurating that board. So we believe that, and one of the concerns one of the board members said was that every Gambian wants to see himself represented in our culture, in our presentation, in our performance. It cannot be a one-sided particular tribe or whatever, which we are aware of, and that's why the cultural policy have addressed that. And because, you know, in the previous government, there was a policy to kill other tribes and promote one tribe culture. But we realized that that's not to our interest. And we've addressed that. So everybody will be treated equally and will be represented equally so that everybody can see yourself in. And that's why we are also working towards the re-establishment of the national troop, which disappeared, which will need your support because we need the funding to have that for the next coming budget so that by 2023, we can finalize that because we are the only country without a national troop. And again, we are working towards getting the national center, national theater center. We don't have it. The Gambia don't have it. So we want to work towards, we've already got them the land. We're now trying to secure the funding to see how best we can build a national theater that Gambians can be proud of, that our artists can be performing without being subject to very expensive hiring of halls and the rest of it. So we are working towards that. So we need a lot of resources to get things done because our identity as an image of a country, we are the only one who can build it together. And we need the assembly to get this thing done. We achieve it before the end of the 5 years. At least we have something to say, this is what we did together. Thank you.
Thank you. The only last part I want to add to it, I just want to compliment your ministry for giving the opportunity to the National Assembly members to be representing the Assembly on international forums. Our last session, I put it to the members that we have to make sure that we have it as a mandatory. Every ministry, anytime they're having an international forum, the member of parliament should be representing the Gambia because we need the formality of other countries, what they are doing and what are they making to be promoting their own country and their whatever cultural or whatever development we want to learn from them. So it's going to help us too, for us to learn from the other countries, what are they making for the progress and the governance in also. So I think we want to put that one also as a mandatory. I will give you that recommendation and that compliment for that matter that you are giving that opportunity to the member of parliament, and which it doesn't go in the way you want it, but we want to see and push it so hard to see that at least the fair representation also happen at any sectors.
Let me just help you, Mr. Chair, if you permit me.
Yes, you can.
I came with this idea. I came with this idea because I felt it was important, being a former parliamentarian, that what Parliament need to learn to see for itself, not only what is in document, but at least parliamentarians need to travel on major important events, because there are meetings that statutory meetings, all the statutory meetings and major meetings or trade fairs. Members of Parliament should really go with us, at least. But then our mandate ends when we write to the clerk. That's where our mandate ends. When the permanent secretary writes to the clerk on normal instruction, we do not determine who is selected. That goes out of our mandate. And when we started seeing the trend, the way the selection was coming, we felt that other members of Parliament have not been treated, my own opinion, have not been treated fairly. Then I told the permanent to stop it. When they asked me, I said, you are not doing proper selection. You are only being favoring. You are favoring few. As a result, I don't operate that way. That's what I told the Parliament. But if they should say, we will now invite only members of the select committee, which is what I saw in other parliaments. In other parliaments, that's what I saw. Only members of the select committee of that particular are nominated. People are only nominated from there. That's what I have seen in other parliaments. Because when I travel, I also see other parliamentarians who accompany some of their delegates. But if I ask for somebody, you bring me somebody who is in finance and nothing to do with tourism, I cannot stop it. It's not my mandate. I don't have the right to select who comes to the meeting. It's not my power. That's the power of the clerk, isn't it? So for me, you people need to work that out. How you work it out with the general body is left to you. But one thing also, not the travel vote. The travel vote, sometimes it is so small that it is difficult. But we do manage because we have several institutions that sometimes also have their travel vote, and we try to use it when it's something that concerns them. When it's something that concerns them, we ask them to do that and cater a parliamentarian as part of that delegation. And we get it done. So I don't know how other ministries do it, but I can tell you that you need to work on trying to restrict it to the select committee of, but that is not our power. We would love to make sure that when we are not here, you can defend us, because you know exactly what we found there, what you saw there. You should be able to speak on behalf of the ministry without, you know what I'm saying? So these are the things you want. And if you now bring me somebody who is not in this committee, and he comes to join us in a meeting and something is asked, you may not even know how to answer the question. Yeah, so.
Thank you so much for that.
This one. Yes. That one is internal, and we make sure we handle it.
Yes.
Because we're going to engage the clerk on that area.
Yes.
So, and all what we are appealing, as the other, as our honorable member said, we want at least these members to be at least exposed and be part of the processes or the discussions or development happening at the ministry, so that we'll be in the position to defend it anywhere. Even when it comes to budgets, we'll be in the position to defend. Because when the budgets are here, at times you have this cut and paste.
And we are always victims.
So if at all we have already cut one of the ministry, and we have seen tourism come with a project proposal, and the funding is not that is a little bit low, we can easily recommend the one we reduce from this ministry to be added to the other ministry. But it is based on with something which we can defend. So we welcome the proposal, and we will handle it internally with the clerk, so that whenever the tourism is moving, the members selected will come from the tourism committee. Thank you.
Right now we are planning to go on a European tour to meet our partners and the rest of it. If you so decide, you can let us know through the permanent secretary. You can write to her to inform her. Then hopefully we can see where it is possible. Maybe you see the problem we have now as a government is getting a visa, because right now we have been sanctioned. I mean, we have to take 45 days for them even to look at our documents, whether we should have a visa or not have a visa, because of they said our refusal to get Gambians repatriated here. We're having that issue with them. But I think, Madam Permanent Secretary, if you could consider getting them a letter on this, so that they will look among themselves how they can work it out. But then you need to guide us as to who to address. You need to guide us, because when she's writing this letter, she either write to the clerk to request member of the select committee.
Yes, sure.
She can put the letter in that form. She can put the letter in that form.
Yes.
What comes here after that is beyond us.
Yes.
We cannot. We don't have that power.
We'll take it up. But let them send that on members from the select committee.
Select committee. So when that happens, then I think we need to be in, because the problem is we need to know who the person is, and then we look at if the person has a visa, because the visa we don't transact. You transact that on your own. Yes, we are not responsible for transacting a visa for you. We only deal with your cost, your ticket, your per diem. That's all we do.
We have a protocol.
I think now it's complicated here, because as long as we are going as a team, I think it's going to be mandatory on your ministry to put the application.
The assembly should do that. The assembly protocol is responsible. That's the assembly protocol, because you see, the assembly protocol handles that, not us.
Okay, can we give Honorable Cisse to cover? We have something to say.
Forget
it. Just allow it.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you so much, Minister. We really appreciate the accord. I just wanted to click it from where Honorable Member for Janjambure stopped. That is with regards to the policy. I know the Select Committee in National Assembly is the face of the ministry, and you know that very well. What I wanted to put across is, I know the policy, like you said, will be costed, and this has to be captured in the budget. So the Select Committee on Tourism, from my own, suggestion, I think we need to be interacting more. It has been mentioned in one of our reports that the Select Committee should cooperate with the line ministry, and I I remember some of the members were saying, how do we cooperate with the ministry? But the word cooperate in that context is looking at for us to work together. You understand? It's not the National Assembly Select Committee to give themselves to the ministry.
Subduing and
You understand?
cooperation
Yeah,
is not the
exactly.
same. They are far,
so
far.
Our cooperation is to work with you so that we can help
But
you
if
and
we
you
don't
help
cooperate,
us.
we don't work.
Because when we are supposed to, conduct oversight over the ministry, and we are not giving information about the ministry, how do we conduct that oversight? So it's important. I just wanted the minister to take the responsibility to make sure that the Select Committee is, engaged on issues, because there are a lot of issues that we'll be hearing, whether they are true or not, we don't know. And what we don't want to do is to speculate about the ministry.
Whatever information you need, contact us within 24 hours, we'll give it to you.
Exactly. So that
available.
when we are on top of issues, it will help us to conduct the right oversight.
Let me have tea. No sugar, no milk.
It will help us to conduct the right oversight over the ministry. And whenever we deliver, that is the thing for the ministry. And then we have been having that problem in the 5th legislature when we come as a committee. Many times, things will fall apart because of, the intervention of the chairperson who was more on sports than tourism. So now we have a committee. The committee is still youth and sports. We are considering his first appeal that these two ministries need to be separated. At least we have members who have background in tourism, can take charge of tourism issues, and then youth and sports also can take charge of tourism, youth and sports issues. That will help us a lot to do the right, oversight over these ministries as well. So, Honorable Chair, I think what he said, we definitely appreciate the accord. That will go off the record. The Office of the Clerk.
But I understand he is live.
Yeah, live. The Office of the Clerk is responsible.
But I don't know why, since you started having live on committee meetings.
Yeah, now,
When you started that?
Now everything is live now, because we also have a department in the National Assembly that is.
No, but let me. Can I make an objection here? See.
Can you stop the cameras?
Yeah, can you stop the camera, please? Let me just.